Hey guys, I'm Shenae. Welcome back to my channel. Normally, I try to stay away from doing too much content revolving around the shows that I was an actor on for many, many years. But when the opportunity strikes me and something calls me to it, I'm super happy to indulge and share that fun content with you guys that I know you love so, so much. And I had one of those situations come up the other day. This one is super juicy. So if you're excited for more 90210 themed content on my channel, then give the video a thumbs up. About a week ago, I got a DM from Tori Spelling, aka Donna Martin from the original Beverly Hills 90210, asking me to film a quick little video for her to intercut in one of her own YouTube videos in this challenge that she's doing to raise money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. So obviously, I was more than happy to oblige. I've watched hours and hours and hours of her on TV. She appeared in an episode or two of my version of 90210, and obviously I've also seen a lot of media coverage about Tori and her husband and her family and stuff over the years. So I thought I had a pretty clear picture painted in my head of who Tori Spelling was. But on that brief phone call, I got a completely new perspective of who Tori is. And so I asked her to sit down with me and just have a conversation so that I could pick her brain, ask all of our burning questions, and hopefully get to know her a little bit more. I feel like I really met Tori for the first time, and I'm really excited to share our conversation with you guys so I can hopefully reintroduce you to the Tori that I got to know. I hope you enjoyed. Mwah. Hi!
Hi!
How are you guys all holding up? I know we connected briefly the other day, but you seem to have such a handle on everything. Like when I asked how you did it, you just kind of giggled, and it was like you genuinely seemed completely calm. Which, wow,
Dying on the inside. Hey, we're actors, right? Like I have to have a poker face. I mean, here's the thing, like, we do the best we can. You get through it. Like, at any given moment in the inside, I'm like, oh my God, I'm failing. But that's just mom guilt, but you just power through. I got to tell you, like this quarantine thing, it's hard, and it's hard to navigate. I mean, yours is young, but like mine, I have to like try to explain to them. And this is a whole, what's happening in the world, and, help them with their fears and kind of navigate that, which is like, I have my own fears. I don't know how to handle what's going on right now. And then I have to try to be like, how would a mom handle it and make them feel like it's going to be okay? So that part's tough, but on the flip side, not having to drive in LA has been brilliant for my life and family, because in LA, it takes at least an hour to get anywhere, no matter where you're located. And I'm always late, so I'm always stressed. So I now can just relax and just move to the other room for everything business.
Obviously, why I was really excited to have this call with you, because we share something in common, to say the least. Yeah. And I feel like I've known you my whole life, and I don't know you at all, but I feel that way because I've been watching you on my TV screen since I was a small child. I was the youngest castmate on the spinoff version, but I was the most diehard fan. I remember just shaking anytime one of you guys would be on set with us. So excited.
Oh my God. And you were literally the nicest and most welcoming on the set. When I did 90210, I wanted to make sure guest stars, everyone felt welcome when they came onto our set. And that's how you made me feel when I came onto your set. So
it makes me
I'll always remember that.
Speaking about the OG and speaking about the new 90210, and then I also want to talk about the new 90210. Like, is this chain ever going to end? I don't know. I hope not.
It was me, then you, then me. So that means you're next.
There you go. There you go. I had a reunion with my cast during this whole quarantine period, because it was like a fun time. I knew we were all in the same place. We were all at home, and we were like, we talked about that. Like, what if they did it again? Like, what would we do? I know how unique and dynamic the relationship between me and my cast were, because you've experienced some of like the highest highs of your life, of probably most people's lives, and a lot of the lowest lows, like, let's be real. It's a cast of a bunch of young people working together every day. Like, it can get a little tumultuous at times. And
A little?
yeah, to say the least, you know. So coming back together all those years later, like, was it therapeutic and cathartic? Was it emotional? I just want to hear as a fan.
Oh my God, everything in one. Like it was, we all just stared at each other a lot, which was the weirdest part. Recreating the Peach Pit scene that they did on BH 90210, when we were in that set, we literally all just looked at each other. And then the first day of shooting, we were doing a 90210 like flashback scene. And I told Jenny Garth, I was like, I was about to say my lines and I panicked and I was like, I can't do this. I can't act in front of all of them. She's like, what do you mean? You acted in front of them for 10 years. And I was like, I can't do it. I have stage fright. She's like, now you have stage fright 30 years later? Give me a break.
Yeah.
But it was like so scary because you always hear you can never go home again. And we did go home again. I wish it had gone on longer, of course.
Yeah.
But being able to have everything come full circle was totally cathartic. Jenny Garth even monitored like a therapy session with me and Brian Austin Green, because we were the youngest on the show. And then, you know, we were on camera together and then there was like some off camera together when we were young. I remember it a little differently than he remembers it because he's a boy and I'm a girl, of course.
Of course.
And then like, we just all resorted, like we went back to our original selves. So the people we were at the height of our fame when we were young, we all went back to that place.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Like all of a sudden I was like feeling like, oh my God, how do I look? Do I look cute? And I'm like, why do I care if I look cute? It's just Brian. Like, and I'm a married woman with 5 kids now and there's absolutely nothing there. But I remembered my 16-year-old self being like, oh my God, does Brian think I'm cute? Does Jason think I look good in this? Like, it's just, you know, you get girly all over again. And they all went back to their same like teen version. So it was pretty trippy.
There was a quote that I read from Ian Ziering, and I think he said like about in regards to our 90210, and he was like, you know, we could be imitated, but we could never be recreated. And I think it was said with a little bit of bitterness, but but I actually completely agree. And I think what you guys did, I mean, it was like iconic. I feel like doesn't even do it justice, right? Like you really created this legacy that paved the way for one of the most pivotal chapters in my life. So I feel like eternally grateful to all of you for doing what you did. And I wonder, like, did doing the new, like the BH 90210, give you a sense of kind of closure maybe to that chapter of your life? Because when I reunited with my cast, again, just on FaceTime, it gave me a sense of closure. I felt like when we got canceled, it was like, that's the end. And all of a sudden I went from seeing these people all day long, every day for 5 years to losing touch almost in an instant. And there was so much unresolved shit. Cause like you said, there's drama, there's boy-girl stuff, you know, there's all that stuff. And it was really nice to kind of like, now we're all settled in our individual lives and coming back together. It gave me a sense of closure. So I just want to hear about that.
First of all, to Ian's point, I mean, everyone has an opinion, definitely. First of all, I was a fan of your show. Like I watched it and not just because I guest starred on it, like I actually loved it. And I think it was never, to me, I always told people like, you can't expect Beverly Hills 90210. It's 90210. And it's not them imitating us and, you know, picking up where we left off and they're the new generation. Like it's dependent on these characters. Like people might tune in at first because they're like, oh, the name 90210. But you guys kept them there because you guys all created dynamic and amazing characters that worked and people wanted to be part of that friend group, which is the same thing we had done. So it was a totally different show and I loved it for that reason. I thought you guys were all great together. But going back, there was closure in a way. And I hate saying closure because I loved working with them all again. You have that shorthand with people that you're like, oh, we still have it. Like, so it was nice, like doing scenes with them again. I was like, I wish we could do something else together. You know, we're getting older. I don't know how many times we can keep playing the 90210 card, but, you know, with some of the cast members, nothing happened. We just lost touch because that just happens. Your lives go different ways, just like you're saying. we're like forced to be together, to act together every, 5 days a week, 17-hour days. And then all of a sudden you're over and you go on different paths. And there were some that I had lost touch with, and I was super happy to be connected again and say everything I wanted to say and be like, wow, we're all solid now. And we are. And that is, if nothing else came from that season of BH 90210, it was the fact that I have them all back in my lives again.
I love that so much. And I'm sure everyone's going to love hearing that so much too. I still get asked almost weekly, like, so do you still keep in touch with,
Number one question, right? Do you still
you
keep
want to
in
have a
touch?
good answer. You want to be like, yes, yes, I do. Those people are your brothers and sisters. And I always say that. I'm like, they're like the cut, like you love them. If anything happened, you'd be there in a second. It doesn't matter how much you don't like them at any given moment. Like they'll have my heart forever, ever.
100%. They are brothers and sisters. That's exactly it. And you don't always get along with your brothers and sisters, but at the core, you like love them like no other. And also, like, no one can quite understand those formative years that what we went through, except you can understand because it happened to you. That's the thing that's nice about connecting with other people that have been through that, when suddenly your life explodes and all eyes are on you, but you're young, you're only in your teens and you're still figuring your own shit out. And then all of a sudden the world is just super focused on you. Obviously you did it at a time where like social media was in play. Like we didn't have social media when we were doing it. And I can't even imagine nowadays, it's just getting tougher and tougher for like young actors when the focus is on them.
Yeah, I feel like
trying to grow
myself. We were actually like just pre-social media.
Was it?
We were like I think Twitter came out when I was on 90210, but paparazzi and all of that shit, like I'd never experienced, I'm from Canada, like Dean will tell you, like that doesn't happen there, and maybe it's changed now, but it certainly didn't back then. So that was all a major, major culture shock, and just not normal at all. And when you're young and already just like messing up constantly and figuring out who the hell you are, it can be extremely, extremely damaging. At least in my experience, it was for sure.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wonder if you can relate to this, because I can, and Jenny Garth and I just spoke about it and we both relate to it. Not to set you up for saying yes or no, but I watched Taylor Swift's documentary, and she said that celebrities are frozen in a way at the moment they got famous. Do you
just
believe
like
that?
A question right out of my mouth. Yes, absolutely. Do you know how many times I get comments on like the way I look, and it's like, you look so much better, not even on 90210, on Degrassi, which was a show that I was on from the age of 13 to 17. And I'm like, cool, thanks. My 31-year-old self
appreciates that comment. Thank you. Like, what?
Yeah. And that has been something that I personally, I swear to you, I've struggled with it forever. I think I'm just now starting to come out the other side of that. And it's almost embarrassing how long it's taken me, but I feel like confident finally to own that and say that out loud, because it was really, really hard for me to feel like I was constantly, no matter what I did in my life, I married an amazing man, I have a beautiful home, I have a healthy, happy daughter, all of these massively like purpose-rich things have happened in my life, and yet it's always like I'm comparing myself, and because I feel like I'm being compared to some past version of me who was actually, like, by the way, really unhappy, really unhealthy, like there was no goodness except for, fame and whatever that was happening to me at that period of my life. And yet people look at that as like the high of my life. So I am constantly like, and I try to hold on to I'm like, but it's yucky. I don't even want to hold on to that. So it's a weird thing in your head.
My thing that I'm stuck on is when I became famous, I was the producer's daughter and the rich daddy's girl. Yeah. So that's where I'm stuck. So even though I have 5 kids, I make my own living. That was my complete past, that I don't even live in that world anymore. I'm always like, I have to be this, like I have to live up to this so they don't think I'm that. It's like, well, no one thinks you're that anymore. You're a 47-year-old woman that works her ass off with 5 kids. Like no one's looking at you as the 6-year-old rich girl of a famous producer. But That's my shit to overcome. And I still can't overcome that.
I can't imagine like being in those shoes as well as this, because for me, there was always a disconnect between my personal life, family life, home life, and the professional baggage and everything that did to who I am as an identity. You know, it was like two different parts. And for you, those two things were so married, you know,
yes.
Like one came with the other, and where does one begin and end? I can't imagine what that must have been like or is like still.
But we're okay. We made it. You have the same feeling. Like when that all goes away, you're like, but none of that really matters. Like, look at my life.
Exactly.
Look what we have, like love, and we're mom. I mean, being a mom is definitely the best rewarding thing in the whole world. Trying at times, as you will see, as she gets older, but it's just amazing.
I went on one audition when I was pregnant, and I always fucking hated auditions. Like I can't, I have a total panic attack. I could know the lines 1000% well. And then as soon as I'm in that waiting room, it's like everything goes out of my head. I'm like completely like sweaty. Like I just can't handle it. But when I went on that audition and I was pregnant, I went in and I didn't give a shit. I had fun again doing it. And I hadn't had fun auditioning since I was first doing it when I was like a tween. And I walked out and I didn't even care. Like I didn't care if I got it or not. And honestly, I had like, it was probably one of the best auditions I've ever done because I gave so few shits about how I was going to do. And it was because I had this like greater purpose all of a sudden. I wasn't just my last success in my career. I was now something that was so much more important than that.
Than any role. Absolutely. Wait, did you get the part?
It was for a girl who was my age at the time, and she was pregnant. And so it was for like the Juicy Couture stories. They were doing like something for E! And so I thought for sure, like it was going to be and oh my God, the stars are aligning again. And of course I got a call saying the audition was great, but she's actually just too old and too pregnant. So we could already see a little bit of a bump, and we wouldn't be able to track that with the pregnancy of the character. So it was like, of course.
Oh my gosh.
I'm too old and too pregnant to play a pregnant person my age. Great. Yep, sums it up.
That's Hollywood.
Yeah. I've had so many revelations about my career and life in Hollywood since I had a daughter of my own. You've got 5, like, and some of them are kind of coming to that teenage years. It's very close there. Is the Spelling TV legacy going to live on with the next generation?
Oh my gosh. Well, it won't be 90210, it'll be 91302, but you know, it could still work out. My oldest, who just turned 13, he says he wants to be an actor, but it's so interesting. Like, I don't know what to believe because there's so much going on right now. Like, they watch people literally be famous for being famous. You know, if any of them really are serious about it, I'm like, let me just tell you, it's not all what you see. It's a lot of work. I think now they see how I work. Like, they saw Beech 90210 because they came to Canada for part of it last year and they didn't see me. They were like, we were all in an apartment and they were like, Mom, we never see you. And some of them came to set and I'd be like, okay, you're not gonna have fun. And they were like in the trailer and at craft service. And they were like at 3 a.m, they were like, we're tired. I'm like, I told you should have stayed with Dad. Like, yeah, it's not all, you know, glory, glamour, what you see on screen. So if they really have the dedication and the drive and they want to put the work into it. I mean, I guess my biggest thing is to warn them, you know, there's a lot of rejection, but that's life in general. So that's a lesson I guess we all have to learn in some form. Long answer short, I guess I would, if they really wanted to do it, I would support them, of course, but it's not something I think I would just like be like, you should do this. No. Yeah, I know it's so hard, like, to keep what you want for your kids out of your mind because you know that that's like not the best parenting style. Yes. But you know, I, as an actor myself, and my husband was a musician and a model for a long time, I was like, this kid is going to be a scientist or an accountant. You know? Like, she's going to do the most, you know,
academic job in the world and whatever. And now, I mean, again, she's only almost 2, but I see her obsession with music and any instrument toy we buy her. And I'm like, oh, damn, I'm going to have to let you do what you want to do.
End up being her groupie.
I know, just like,
and you'll love every second of it, because we can't, that's it. They're predestined to be who they are anyway. You know, we can try to navigate them, but they are who they are at their core.
Did you ever want to do anything else yourself? Like, were you kind of were you actually interested in being an actor from day one, or were you predisposed to that because of, you know, I guess it's the nature versus nurture thing.
Right. I know. I don't know if I'll ever really know, because it's all I saw happening around me from the time I could understand anything. For me, it was definitely something I was always very interested in. I always said either that or a veterinarian. And I have a house full of animals, so I guess I'm a little bit of both. How old were you when you actually started?
So 11, I was in that music theater program, and a boy from Degrassi actually was in the program.
Oh, wow.
And so I was super like starstruck and so excited, because Degrassi is such a huge show in Canada, especially for young people. And so I asked him for his autograph, and he was like so flattered to be asked for his autograph that he was like, I mean, if you want to do this, like, here's my agent's number. And I was like, okay.
And the rest is history, people.
Yeah. And then I remember finishing 90210 and being like, who the fuck am I? Like, I didn't even recognize myself anymore, because I started this 10-year run when I was 13. I finished 90210 when I was 23. I got married a month later, and I was like, I'm a grown-ass woman now. Like, I went from being like a tween entering high school, and all of a sudden I'm a grown woman, and I've worked like 17 hours a day for 10 years. And I feel like I need time to kind of like process and digest and meet myself, I guess, which is weird. But did you have something similar like that happen?
I love that. Meet yourself. Yeah. But did you ever completely get that chance? Because you went from one scenario where you were working, you had fame, and then you went right into being a wife. Like, I never was just by myself.
I really feel like I found myself in my husband. Like, when we met, and I feel like you and Dean, I don't know the ins and outs of your relationship, but I mean, you guys have been together for a really long time. When you met, it was a whirlwind thing. That's how it was with me and my husband. My mom always said, because I was like, I'm never getting married. I'm going to have kids with my gay best friend one day. And like, that's what it's going to be.
That's true.
You know? And my mom was like, one day, if it happens, you're going to know, because it's going to like punch you in the face and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened when I met my husband. He literally opened the door to me one night, and it was just like, well, my life just changed. Like, that was it. And he is my better half. So I think I have found myself, and I continue to find myself, because I have his encouragement and his support there constantly. So it makes it all less scary, I guess, than I imagine it would be doing it all by myself. Because so much of your life has been in front of the camera, like, how does that affect you on a personal level? Because my husband, we got away with like really not having a lot of that. By the time that chapter of my life happened, people had really lost interest. So I didn't have to deal with a whole lot of media bullshit surrounding something that was very, very personal to me. And I don't know how that would have translated at home. Like, it's one of those things where you just kind of like brush it off because it's the media, and you know that the media fabricates a lot of stuff and makes everything way more dramatic. Or does it actually integrate into your home life? And is that a struggle?
We talk about it. I have tougher skin than Dean does, I think. He gets really frustrated, especially with me, like the way he'll be like, I can't believe they're saying this about you again. You work so hard. And it's like, just when you make a little progress, there's like some bad story that comes out.
Yeah.
And so he gets really mad. And I'm just like, I've been dealing with this since I was 16. Like, I'm so used to it. I also, though, like, push all my feelings inside. I've always been that person. So on the outside, I'm like, just move on. I'm fine. So there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
But I did notice that it took on I was able to find my voice and feeling upset and not liking that aspect when it started affecting the kids. Because it wasn't about like, oh, they can say whatever they want about me. But if they like say things about my kids, then I'm like, so that's when it like, it really bothers me.
The one beauty that I've found in social media for me personally is like finally controlling your own narrative, I guess, right? Like the media says so many things about you. I was definitely like a tabloid bad girl for a long time. And, you know, and then some of the shit that you'd read about you, and I would get so offended because it was like, okay, some of it's true, some of it is true,
right? Like,
and
there's always a little bit of truth
really
in
not
some
at
of it,
all
but
true. And so, you know, it's like so frustrating to feel like your character is being like defamed completely out of your control, and that is now the perception that people have of you. And on social media, I got to kind of regain some of that narrative. But I think a realization I had recently, and I just want to know if this like rings true for you at all. You know, you do so much media training that you really do learn to censor yourself and like project an image, right? And I did that for a while on social because it was like, finally, okay, I get to like paint the pretty picture of myself and whatever.
right.
And that started to not sit right with me too. So now I've tried to kind of approach it of like, yeah, I guess just being more honest and upfront about like, this is who I am, like take it or leave it. But it took me a long time to start to unlearn those censoring behaviors that were put on me in response to the backlash, negative backlash from media.
Absolutely. Well, Dean says all the time, he's like, when something comes out, he's like, we have to say something. And I'm so trained since I was 16 by, you know, agents and managers and publicists that like, nope, you don't say anything. You just like, you shut it down. Because as soon as you say something, then you're just adding to their story. And I still have that program because I've been hearing it my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. I tell Dean all the time, you know, he wants to go on social media and be like, this did not happen. My wife didn't do that. And I was like, you don't. Sometimes he still does. But for the most part, I'm like, babe, we can't say anything.
Yeah.
So it's still hard navigating that. I did the same thing. Like social media was at first, like, I remember with my first reality show, I was like, oh, great. I could show them all. I'm not what you thought I was, like the rich girl growing up. Like I'm Susie Homemaker. And while that is totally a part of me, I really focused on like everything had to be stylized and perfect. And like, I couldn't have like, oh, I baked the muffins, they deflated. It's like, no, I would stay up all night and make sure they look perfect because I'm the new Martha Stewart. And it's like, that wasn't the truth. I was moving shit around what we were filming. It was like totally messy behind the cameras, and wherever we would film, I would just clean the space out. And I felt so much pressure to have to be that. You know, your life kind of dictates what's going to happen anyway. And there was a point in our lives, in our relationship, that wasn't pretty with Dean and I, and it was public and it got messy. And while I'm bummed that happened in our lives, it was kind of a freeing time because then I could just be like, okay, fuck it. Yeah. You know, we don't have the perfect relationship, you know, because everyone, you know, had created this little thing, and it was so much better than the creation of the rich girl, Donna Martin, like Tori and Dean, and they're great. And they have 2 small kids, and then it became 3 and 4 and 5 kids. And they're this perfect couple that I felt like I had to have that. And then it was like, oh, but he cheated on her, and their whole life like blew up. And and then I was like, okay, so now I can just tell it like it is. And it's kind of been a little bit of owning both worlds and not over. Then I became like TMI. I would just say everything, and it's like, oops, that's not good either. So it's just kind of finding that balance now.
I think my takeaway from, I mean, literally my takeaway from like 2 minutes on the phone with you 2 days ago was I felt like I'd known you for so long. You just made me feel so comfortable in my skin in 30 seconds of speaking to you. And I think that is such a beautiful characteristic to have that not a lot of people do, because it felt like you bring no ego to the conversation at all. And I just so admire that, because to me, that's a true testament of confidence. And yes. And seeing Dean like off in the corner being silly, I was like, hey, they're best friends, man. I felt like I got such a beautiful picture of you in that like very, very short exchange that I never knew about you, because obviously you see what you see in the media. That's what they're controlling. You see what you see on social media that you're curating and controlling. And I just was like, I feel like I just I don't know, like met Tori, like not Tori Spelling, not Tori and Dean, like I just met Tori, and it was very cool. And so I was like, God, I'm so excited for other people who watch this video to feel like they're getting to meet Tori, because I think you're
That makes me so happy. You have no idea. You just made my whole day. No, that sums it up. There's definitely no ego. I've never had ego. But that also comes from a place of like not feeling worthy enough somewhere deep down. So when you say that no ego equates confidence, that makes me feel really good, because maybe I'm busy thinking I have this self-worth problem, and maybe that's not it. Maybe I've had the confidence there all along and I just didn't know it.
That's the impression that I got from someone who knows really not a whole lot about you at all, other than if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had the careers and the opportunity that I've had. So I am super grateful to you for your career and everything that you've done as a fan and as someone who got to, you know, step into some pretty big shoes on a smaller scale. But yeah, I just feel like I made a friend in you.
If it's anything, I felt the same way after we off the phone. I was singing your praises to my husband, and I was like, she's so cool. Because I know, you know, I read the stuff about you in the tabloids back then.
Totally.
I always tell people, you know, we didn't have much interaction when I guest started in Israel, but you were always the nicest, and you were the first one that greeted me and made me feel comfortable. So I always appreciated that. But then, you know, I follow you on social media, and I followed your journey, and you seemed really badass, and I love your message to everyone, and I love that you're authentically you, and I think it's beautiful, and that was just confirmed the other day when I talked to you too. So always been a fan of you.
All crushes on each other. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Bye.
Talk about a tea spill. It was so much fun to get to pick the brain of somebody that I have watched on TV and from a distance for so many years. I mean, really kind of my whole life. And now all these years later, after sharing something in common for so long, I feel truly like we bonded over that call. I feel like I really got to know and showcase her heart for everybody watching. And it was a real privilege to be able to do that. So yeah. Thank you to Tori for letting me pick her brain, and thank you to you guys for watching it. And before you go, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel, because I am more than 90210, and I do share a lot more valuable tips and life lessons that I've learned along the way and continue to learn along the way on this channel. But you also never know when somebody exciting from a past show that I've been on, or maybe one that I haven't been on at all, is gonna pop up on this channel. Lots more to come. I will see you guys in the next video. Mwah!